Let me ask you something. What if everything you thought you needed to be happy, all the wealth, the possessions, the accolades, wasn't the answer? What if true happiness didn't come from having more, but from needing less? Now I know that goes against everything society tells us. From the moment we're born, the world teaches us that success is about accumulation. More money, more status, more stuff. But let me tell you a little secret. That's not the truth. And I know this because I've been there. I've lived it. You see, when I was coming up in my career, I thought the same way most of us do. I thought, if I can just get that big break, if I can just make enough money, if I can just reach the top, then I'll be happy. And yes, when the roles came, when the awards came, when the bank account grew, I felt a sense of accomplishment. But do you know what else came with all of that? More pressure, more stress, more expectations. Let me take you back for a moment. Early on in my career, there was this moment when I was standing in my own apartment, a small, modest place back then, and I looked around. There wasn't much in there, a couch, a bed, a little kitchen table, but I was happy. Why? Because I was chasing a dream, not a dollar. I was working for the love of the craft, not the recognition. Fast forward a few years, and I've got the big house, the nice cars, the fancy clothes, and guess what? That sense of peace I had in that little apartment, it wasn't there anymore. It took me years to realize that it wasn't the stuff that was missing. It was my connection to what really mattered. You know, there's this old saying, more money, more problems. It's not just a catchy line, it's the truth. When you're constantly chasing more, you're never satisfied. You get the bigger house, and then you want a bigger one. You buy the fancy car, and now you're worried about keeping it spotless, about someone scratching it in the parking lot. You're working harder to maintain a lifestyle that you thought would make you happy, but instead, it's making you a prisoner. That's the paradox of more. It never ends. But here's where the shift happens. What if you decided to stop chasing? What if you said, I'm going to focus on what I have, not what I don't have? I'll give you an example. I once read about Keanu Reeves, a man who could buy anything he wants, but chooses simplicity. He takes the subway. He enjoys a quiet meal at a modest restaurant. Why? Because he's not chasing validation. He's not trying to impress anyone. He's living for himself, for his peace, for his happiness. And that, my friends, is the secret. Let's take this deeper. Have you ever noticed how kids find joy in the simplest things? Give a child a cardboard box, and they'll turn it into a spaceship, a castle, a fort. They're not thinking about what they don't have. They're fully present with what's right in front of them. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we lose that ability. We start comparing, we start competing, we start believing the lie that happiness is out there, somewhere beyond our reach, and we just need to work harder to grab it. But let me tell you something. Happiness isn't out there. It's right here. It's in the moment you're in. It's in the people you love. It's in the gratitude you feel for what you already have. I remember a moment that changed my perspective forever. I was on set, filming one of the biggest movies of my career. Everything was going well. The director was happy. The studio was happy. The paycheck was more than I'd ever dreamed of. And yet, I felt this emptiness. That night, I called my wife, Pauletta. I said, why do I feel like this? I've got everything I've ever wanted, but I'm not happy. And she said something that hit me like a ton of bricks. She said, Denzel, maybe it's because you're looking for happiness in the wrong places. That was it. That was the moment I realized I needed to shift my focus. It wasn't about the roles or the accolades. It was about the relationships, the moments, the purpose behind what I was doing. From that day forward, I started to focus less on what I could get and more on what I could give. And you know what happened? That emptiness disappeared. The joy came back. The peace came back. Because I wasn't chasing anymore. I was living. And let's talk about living for a moment. Living isn't about the number of things you own. It's about the number of lives you touch. It's about the memories you create, the love you give, the impact you leave behind. When you're on your deathbed, and trust me, we're all going to be there one day. You're not going to be thinking about your bank account or your car or your house. You're going to be thinking about the people you loved, the moments that took your breath away, the times you laughed so hard your stomach hurt. That's what matters. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't strive for success. Ambition is a beautiful thing. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. But there's a difference between striving and chasing. Striving is about growth, about becoming the best version of yourself. Chasing is about trying to fill a void that can't be filled with stuff. The key is knowing the difference. So, here's my challenge to you. Take a moment today to reflect. Ask yourself, what am I chasing? And is it really worth it? Look around at what you already have. Maybe it's a roof over your head, food on your table, people who love you. Maybe it's the gift of another day. Whatever it is, take a moment to be grateful for it. Because when you start to appreciate what you have, you'll realize you already have enough. Life is short, my friends. Don't waste it chasing things that don't matter. Focus on what does. Love deeply. Live fully. And remember, happiness isn't about having more. It's about needing less.